I think everybody by now must know about painting watercolors and using salt to create some really beautiful and interesting effects. But if you don't, you might want to watch this video because I'm going to use all different kinds of salt and you'll see all different kinds of reactions. Hi, I'm Margaret with Sacramento Art Classes, and if you haven't noticed, I've been making a lot of these little videos, so please go check out my YouTube channel if you're watching this on Facebook. And if you're watching it on YouTube, they're on Facebook too. So if you give me a comment or a like, and also stick around till the end of the video because I have 2 freebies that I'm giving away and I'll tell you all about them. So hang in there and let's go paint. All right, this will be a good one. I just have a little setup I had to do ahead of time for you, but I think that'll make this a better demo. I'm going to be doing 5 different kinds of salt. They're listed here at the top, and I'll tell you about them as I do them. Towards the top of the paper here, my paint and water on the paper will be a little bit more towards a little drier. Not to say that it's going to be dry, but it won't be as shiny or as wet as what's down here. So that way you'll have a whole range of different kinds of salt and different amounts of water on the paper. I'm going to use the exact same paint for all of these, which is a beautiful phthalo blue, and it's about the consistency of coffee, so some good body to it. And I'm also going to do these wet into wet, so I have a larger brush here that I'm just going to pre-wet one section at a time, and then put my paint and then put my salt. And I'm wetting it first because it's a hot day and it's just going to make the paint flow a little bit faster for us. So let's give this a try and see what happens. Okay, so this is a large Princeton brush, and I'm pre-wetting this area here under sea salt. My sea salt is the kind that is just the grocery store brand, so nothing fancy, and it comes in a grinder. So I actually did the grinding of this salt ahead of time, and that makes a little difference, you know, when you're using a grinder or not, because every grinder is a little different, and you'll see as you experiment with this. I'm spending a little bit more time making sure I have a little more water down here. I know you can't maybe tell in the video, but it's a little shinier here, and the top half has already begun to dry just a bit. So before this gets much farther, I'm going to go ahead with my paint, and here we go. You're going to see that it's going to move around kind of easily because, you know, it starts to flow on its own because the paper is pre-wet, and then I'm going to carry it up into here, into the more dry or less shiny wet section. I'm trying to be pretty even with the amount of paint so that it's not darker at the bottom. It's just hopefully gonna have, I'm sweeping downwards to try and get just a little bit more paint and more water down here. So the trick with any kind of salt is you want to sprinkle it on here before your paper dries up too much, because once it loses most of its shine, nothing is going to happen for you, or not very much. So you get better results when your paint is nice and wet. And also, what was I gonna say? Oh well, live video, it'll come back to me in a minute. Okay, so here's a pinch of sea salt. I'm starting out down here in the part that's more wet, and then I'll put a little up at the top. So you can see black spots or very dark spots starting to appear there. That is the salt drawing the paint towards itself. And so we're just going to leave that alone. I'll shush these back over there. We're going to leave that be, and over time throughout this video you will see that this little technique will start to appear more interesting as we go. So it takes a while for the salt to develop, and it's best to let it dry on its own. Don't use a heat gun or a hair dryer. So while that's going, we're going to go on to number 2, and I don't need to re-explain for you everything, but the same technique, trying to have more water down at the bottom and a little bit less up at the top. You could also do this in different times, not one big strip like me. You can do a bunch of these samples where you have the paper is wetter and then let those do their thing, and then do a second round where you have some drier paper and see what will happen. Another thing that you'll notice as you do this is that each type of salt makes a different reaction, and also the amount of salt. So if you chunk on a bunch of salt on here, you don't get as much of the sparkle that you're going to see in some of what I'm doing here. It's already starting to form on that first pass. When I say sparkle, I mean kind of like frost on a window or something. you get more sparkle when your paper and your paint are still wet. And you don't have a lot of salt chunked on there, right? So that it has, each little crystal of salt has room to do its own thing. If you want something that has a lot of texture, like recently we did a lizard or a chameleon, and on its skin it was very bumpy, so we just packed on a ton of salt and allowed it to develop on the lizard, and it looked like just really kind of crunchy, bumpy skin. So how much you put on there also affects things. All right, so that's number 2. That was coarse sea salt, and mine comes in a canister, just so you can buy it already ground at the store. They're a little bit bigger crystals, and they seem to be a little bit more kind of regular crystal shaped. They're not like crushed up or ground up. They have more of a faceted type of look to them. This next one is Epsom salt. I probably don't have to tell you, but you never know, so I will tell you. You don't want to use any kind of salt that has additives, and sometimes Epsom salt may have something like lavender in it for a bath, and or maybe even in cooking, I'm not sure. But if you have lavender, chances are it's a lavender oil or an essential oil of some sort, whatever the flavor is, and having that in your salt gives an oiliness to the salt, and it can change the outcome, the effect, but it can also change how your paper reacts. Your paper may end up being it may have kind of an oiliness to it, or almost like you got some chips on there, or some oil from food on your fingers or something. So you want to be careful of that. Just watch out. You can see this one, the Epsom salt, already is making changes. It's really drawing that salt or the paint towards itself. And Epsom salt has it's magnesium sulfate, so it's got other minerals happening in there too, so you'll have a different effect with that. Okay, this next one is just ordinary plain old table salt, just like from a shaker. We'll see what happens with that. And just because I only have these 5, you know, you use whatever you want. I used to use kosher salt all the time in my paintings, and I really liked that effect. I just don't happen to have any, so I couldn't use that for you today, but try whatever. Have fun experimenting. Okay, so here comes the blue. If I didn't already tell you, this is phthalo blue. And I do not remember whether it's a red shade or a blue shade or a green shade. It's just, I marked it on my palette as just plain old phthalo blue. And I'm trying to have more juice at the bottom here. I don't know if I'm doing the best job of that, but you will have different effects based on how wet and juicy your paper is. Okay, so here we have table salt. And these are very tiny pieces. So I'm going to just leave it at that. We have one last one, and the last one is going to be that pink Himalayan salt, and mine is in a grinder, so I'll have irregular pieces, and you probably won't be able to see it because of the color I chose with this dark blue, but it has little kind of inclusions or little darker bits in it that will start to, you can see it if you are holding it in your hand, but you may not be able to see it on this paper. Okay, need a little more paint here. Sometimes people say, do you have to do this wet into wet? Can you just put paint on and then sprinkle your salt? And the answer is yes. It's just that it's less wet and you may have more brush marks. By the way, before I forget, if you stay around till the end of this video, I will tell you about a couple of freebies that I have. I have a nice video about controlling water and paint in your paintings, and it's a game changer for new painters. And also I have a companion supply list that has clickable links with some of my favorite things that I've used over the last 25 years of painting. And so you can look at the end of the video if you're watching this on YouTube, look in the description and you'll see links. And if you're watching it on Facebook, just comment supply in the comments and I'll send it to you. Okay, so everything is sprinkled. It's drying out. We're gonna let this sit for a minute and then I will come back to you when things are fully dry, because they're still gonna develop beyond this. So this is how they look now, a few minutes in, and beautiful results, and then they're gonna look different as they develop. So I will let this dry and I'll come right back to you. Okay, I think we got some really beautiful results here after everything is dry. One last final step that you want to do is remove any salt crystals. But please make sure that everything is all the way dry, because if you have any water or paint that's still connected in with where the crystals are and you scrape, you can blur that or scrape it up, or just it kind of loses the beautiful effect. So I will just do one of these so that you can kind of get the idea, or maybe I'll do a couple. So here we go. I use an old credit card here or a gift card, whatever you have, to scrape these aside. This one, I'm going to leave that. That looks a little bit wet to me. They're larger crystals, so sorry, we'll have to leave that one for now, but we'll get it later. And same thing on there. Looks like a few spots. It's a very hot day today, but I guess it didn't dry enough. But anyway, you get the idea. Some beautiful results. I hope you give this a try. And thank you so much for watching. If you like this, please give me a comment or thumbs up or follow me. Subscribe to my channel, whatever you got to do. Thank you very much. Have a great day.